Welcome to the Successful Home Inspector Podcast, where we discuss everything you need to know about home inspection from A to Z. Brought to you by Preston Sandlin and Home Inspection Carolina. We're here to share some success stories and some not so successful stories. Some things we can all learn from, and maybe, just maybe, we can help each other and raise the profession. So sit back, turn up the volume, and enjoy. Now, here's your host of the Successful Home Inspector Podcast, Preston Sandlin.
Are you struggling to make your home inspection business grow? Well, have I got the answer for you. HomeInspectionFlyers.com. At HomeInspectionFlyers.com, you get 5 flyers a month. There are 3 sales flyers and 2 recipe flyers. And you can customize them to exactly what you want. And these are make great flyers when you go to the offices to put in their boxes, especially if you're doing like candy bowls or something along that nature. Like I said, it's 5 flyers a month for $29.99, and they're very creative, and you just put in your information. They come as a publisher file, and you just put in your information, and then you send them off to get printed. You can send them off online, and you can get color copies for less than 10 cents a copy. It's a great way to go. I went from being a 1-man home inspection firm to a 7-man home inspection firm on this one strategy alone. So try it today. HomeInspectionFlyers.com. Thanks.
Well, hello, folks and listeners. We've got a special treat for you today. I have a good friend and a great home inspector with me here from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Chris Early. He's been in the business a while. We've known each other from different conferences and things. I know he has a multi-inspector firm, and he has 3 girls. I'm not going to say I feel your pain because they're great. I have 2 girls, but we have similar struggles, I think.
You can say you feel my pain. That's okay.
Yeah, I hear you.
You do.
I hear you. Well, so Chris, tell us a little bit more about you because we'd like to get to know you personally.
Sure. Yeah, I'm from northeast Pennsylvania, an area called the Poconos. It's about 3 hours north of Philadelphia. That's where my mom and my family's from. When I was 5, my mom married my stepdad, who's in the military, so I ended up being a military brat, and we ended up moving around a lot of different places before I graduated high school, which in hindsight was pretty cool. We lived in Denver for a year, Arkansas for a couple of years. We were in Germany for 5 years, and that was probably the best of it. I was living in Germany from when I was like 8 till 13, so I remember a lot of it, and it was when the Berlin Wall was up. And we got to go over to the other side to East Berlin, and when it was still communist, and that was pretty good for me to see at a young age, kind of communism, and seeing what all that was about, and that I didn't want any parts of it.
Right.
But it was cool doing a lot of traveling. I was in Boy Scouts, so I did a lot of camping, with a lot of international camping, and then when I was 18, we moved back to the area, and I was actually got an ROTC scholarship for Air Force. And I had to find a college to use it at, and I was originally going to go to University of Michigan. Then my parents, my mom, my stepdad ended up getting divorced, so my mom said, "Oh, we're moving back home. You got to find a college where you can use this scholarship at." So I looked around, and it was last minute. It was probably May, and most of the college application programs are closed by that point. So Temple University was one of the only ones that had it still open. So I applied, and I got accepted to their architecture program.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved buildings for a long time. I think they're cool. But then I started in the architecture program at Temple, and I don't know if you would probably like it, Preston, because the first semester was all artwork. Like we got there,
cool.
All right, you got to get paint, you got to get colored pencils, you got to get charcoal and do charcoal drawings, and I was like, I didn't sign up to be an artist. I signed up to build buildings, and that's what it was. The first semester we have studio, and it was all artwork and getting your mind to think creatively, and I wasn't really about that, so I switched over to civil engineering the next semester, and that's what I ended up getting a degree in from Temple.
Okay, so from there, Chris, so you're an owl.
I'm an owl.
An owl. Yeah, you guys. I remember you guys had Wood Cheney.
John Cheney. He looks like an owl too. That guy.
Yeah, you guys were pretty good, but I don't. He wasn't. He wasn't the most media friendly guy in the world.
No,
was
definitely not. He didn't like John Calipari either.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, and I have to be careful what I say about, because all my wife's people are Kentucky fans. So.
Oh, there you go. I bet she loves him then.
Yeah, no comment for me. So I'm a Carolina fan. So
there you go.
We got Duke tonight. But anyway, well, so how did you make from you were civil engineer? So how did you get from there to being a home inspector?
I got it. Ended up pursuing construction management. So I like kind of applying the engineering principles instead of sitting in an office and doing all the design calculations and going to get my professional engineer's license. I looked at that track, and that wasn't really appealing to me either. So I got hired by a big company called Skanska. Well, they were Barclay White at the time. They got bought out by a big, huge commercial construction company called Skanska. And I was a project engineer. I was in a job site trailer dealing with the contractors, looking at the as-built and the blueprints and submitting submittals and different things to the architect. So I did that for 8 years. I worked for a couple big construction management companies in the Philadelphia area, and I traveled a little bit. I was up in Connecticut at Yale University. We did a dorm renovation up there, lived up there for a year. That was pretty cool. But it was good, but it was still a little bit of the corporate world. I mean, I was in at 7 in the morning when the union guys came in. And sometimes I was there late at night till 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. And honestly, that was pretty cool when I was young. But as you know, when you start having kids, it's like you start seeing you're missing out a little bit on their life, and you want to be around for that sort of thing. So that's when I first started thinking, I guess, about 8 years into my career, that I wanted to do something else. So home inspections actually kind of popped up. My dad, who I keep in touch with, he still does home inspections. He was a truck driver, and he was looking at making a career change right around the same time. We both kind of stumbled on home inspections at the same time. So, I've been in about 8 years now, and that's when I started, 8 years into home inspections. That's when I kind of made the move that, all right, I'm just going to thankfully, my wife had a decent job, and she could float me for a little while. I just started from scratch, basically,
Yeah. How, now, probably your engineering background surely helped you. Did you go to take one of the school's training programs, or? It was
actually, I purchased a franchise, and it actually was a franchise that they gave me the initial training when I started. So I went down to Arizona for 2 weeks. I did the book work prior to that, and then after the 2 weeks down at the franchise training, I came back and voila.
Oh, okay, cool. Hey, I want to back up on two things you said real quick, Chris. I'm getting a little bit off on a tangent, but I did want to mention it. Two things. My father was a mortician, and he went to mortuary school in Philadelphia, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it doesn't exist anymore. It was Eccles School of Mortuary. So
I wonder where it was.
He showed me the parking lot where the building was. We did the whole I'm sorry, the
tour,
Liberty Bell, and the Freemasons and all that stuff. And then the second part of that is he also builds caskets. And when I was young, I used to deliver caskets up in New York stuff. And we don't have unions too much down here. I never really experienced that. You were talking about the union labor and stuff like that.
Yep.
And nothing against unions or anything, but man, this was the strangest thing. I learned this. I would be delivering those caskets, and the unions had breaks, and we would be in the middle. I mean, well, not even the middle. They would help me unload the caskets. I'm at the stop here in New York, and we'd have like 3 caskets to go, and the break would come, and they couldn't help me. They had to wait till the break was over. And I was like, come on, man, we only got 3. And it was a union thing, and I don't know. I got a little glimpse of that, and I was like, what? I mean, come on, man, we got 3 more.
Yeah.
And you have to wait until the official break is over. I don't know. I know I'm getting off on a tangent.
No, that's okay. I was exposed to a lot of that too at the union, and at first, I'm dealing with some really good tradespeople. They really, really know their stuff, but they're really regimented about their breaks and stuff like that. And even more so, what I really hated was just how they're regimented about whose work is whose. Like the one job I was on, we built a building called Dockside out over the Delaware River. Really cool job as like a construction person. We're drilling pilings right through the water into the mud basically, and we're building a 13, 14-story building, I think it was. And some of the union guys, I guess the carpenters and the electricians were arguing over whose work was the microwaves. Like whose job was it to install the microwaves? So I guess we gave it to the carpenters, and the electricians got peeved, and they ended up putting aluminum foil in every single microwave and started.
Oh.
And it was a big, huge thing because it was just they were just fighting back and forth about whose work was whose. And I'm thinking, are you for real?
Yeah,
it blew my mind that it was so petty.
I understand when unions got started. I know we're getting off on a tangent. We'll get back on track, but I understand, like way back, child labor laws and people in factories that work.
When you're in the coal mines and stuff, sure.
I get it, but I'm a true marketing capitalist type of person where,
yep.
Yeah, and the unions almost, to me, it's like socialism. I'm sure some people will listen to this, and I'm probably gonna get some ugly emails. But
you're gonna get some tomatoes on your window at that
point. Exactly. So I might learn the hard way where Jimmy Hoffa is. But anyway. Moving right along.
I digress.
Back on. Yeah. So all right. So total, I sort of got your timeline there. But how long have you been doing inspections now? And tell me about the changes you've seen.
Started in 2007, January of 2007. I came out of my franchise training in January, and that's when I started. My first year, I think I actually started out pretty decent. That's one of the benefits of the franchise was I started out a little faster, I think, than I would have if I would have started out on my own. I think I did 150 inspections my first year.
Okay.
And it was pretty much, 11 months. Almost 12 months by the time I came out of training that I had of that inspection. So that was good. When I first started, I was doing the Palm Pilot thing. I think I saw you had one of them posted on Facebook a little while ago that's what you guys were using too, like a little.
I had the HP iPack. It was called an iPack. iPack.
Pre-iPad. It was like basically the same thing. It was a Dell Axim. I had the digital camera in one hand. I had the little, the Palm Pilot thing in the other. And then when I got back home, we'd merge the two. I'd put in my captions. I'd put in my arrows. It was always computer generated since I started. So I hear stories about what it was like when 20 years ago and carbon copies. And I never saw any of that. Mine was always computer generated from the get go. But now, so when we were using that Palm Pilot and the digital cameras, it was still pretty efficient, pretty fast. The report looked pretty good, but it was a little bit longer. Where now, I've got the app right on my phone. I take the pictures. It goes right in the report automatically. I don't have to merge the two. And then by the time I'm getting home for an average house, I'm spending 15 minutes to a half hour on a report tops.
Oh, wow.
Really, our reports look almost exactly the same, but the time for me to produce a report has been cut in half.
Wow. Now, is this software, is it with your franchise, or is it one of the...
I use 3D.
Oh, okay, yeah. I use 3D. I use 3D.
They give us the form sets, but yeah, 3D. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you're using the Android app with it, and send it up to the cloud and bring it back down?
Yeah, exactly. You said you're using the same thing?
Yep. I've been using 3D for years. I love it. I don't... Well, I've done it so long, I really haven't. Everybody loves their software.
Yeah, right. It's very averse to change after this many years in the business, I guess.
That's right. Well, you know what I found out, though? They're all pretty good now.
Yep.
There was a time when one software was better than the other, but they've all gotten pretty good. I've never, the end consumer, and probably some people out there are going to get angry at this, too. They really don't know.
Right.
This is 3D, this is what are the other ones? But,
right, they don't care. They care about the information in there.
That's right. Well, this is a double question, Chris. How many inspectors do you have, and was it hard to hire that first one? Take us back there, because I know a lot of guys struggle with that.
Yeah. Yes, it was hard to hire the first one. We have 3 other guys besides myself. We have another guy in training right now. Yeah, when I'd actually done it by myself for 4 years, or 3 or 4 years, I guess, before I hired. I was probably 4 before I hired Tom. And you know what? The biggest thing for me it was my why. I never really had a why, a reason to hire another inspector besides myself. My wife had a very nice job that she liked at the time, great benefits. So I really didn't need to do a lot of inspections. I was hitting 250, maybe close to 300 inspections a year, and I was just happy, and that was that. And we lived a good life. But, a few years in, my wife said, I'd kind of like to stay home and see the kids, too. I'm getting stressed by work. I don't really like my career anymore. And that was my incentive to kind of push the business to the next level, because it was, it was either do that or the happy wife, happy life thing.
Exactly.
Well, and that's pretty much the same incentive I had, Chris. It was twofold. It was that my wife wanted to stay home. She was a teacher and she'd gone back. That in the combination of I'm staying up till I'm doing 3 inspections a day, staying up till 11, 12, writing reports every night, and that's just you can't do that forever.
Yeah, you burn out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's okay. The first inspector I hired, it was hard, but thankfully I think this is the best thing for everybody to do is to find, ask your real estate agents, ask the people that are giving you work who a good home inspector would be, because I got lucky on that one. That one of my good agents who gives us a lot of work, he recommended, he knew a guy that he'd been staying at home, living, basically raising his kids, and his youngest kid had just turned school age, and he was a carpenter, a former carpenter and framing guy. And the real estate agent knows what kind of personality we like. So he said, and he knew better than I did at the time. And he said, yeah, why don't you call up Tom? Tom's a great guy. He's got contracting experience. He's good with people. And, I got really lucky with our first hire. And it's because I went right to my real estate agents and asked them.
Right. And you say you've got, there's 3 other and yourself? Is that?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Well, and if you think about it, if you step back from it, Chris, all right, so there's 4 of you total. You 4 guys could be working independently, but you'd be killing yourselves. You could never go on vacation. And every single one of them, you would be paying somebody to answer your phone, somebody to market. To me, it makes sense. Like, we can all work together here, help each other, get our phones answered and market, and they can probably walk away with as much money as they would have had independently, plus have a life, be able to go on vacation and stuff.
Yeah. Yep. I look at the money that some of my guys are making. I'm thinking there is 0% chance that they'd be making this on their own, and not because they're not good marketers, but because they make pretty good money, and we're able to bring them a pretty good volume of work together, working together as a team. And if they go away on vacation, we can pick up their radon monitors if they're gone, or if they're sick, we have a guy that can take their home inspection. It's great. I think it's great. It's a better standard of living for everybody involved.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. And I do want the listeners out there to understand, though, there's nothing wrong with having a single-man operation.
Right.
And there are times, headache-wise, I wish I had that. But it does make sense, because, it's like when I was single, when you live at home, it's like being single versus being married. You still only have one phone bill, one cable bill, one, all those things, but you share those instead of 2 people paying each, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. You can offer a lot better, when you sign up with your memberships, a lot of these places, it's not that much more to add on another person. Or your errors and emissions insurance, it's not like you're paying double your errors and emissions insurance when you bring on another guy. It's just you get some standards of, what do you call it, I forget what the term is, but
I know what you're saying. It's early here, so I can't. My brain is another cup of coffee. Well, Chris, do you have a success quote you'd like to share with us?
I'm a big runner, so my quote's it's a Steve Prefontaine quote: "To give anything less than your best is to sacrifice the gift." And I don't know if you know anything about Steve Prefontaine, but I guess back in the 70s, he's a big distance runner. He ran the Olympics when he was still a teenager, and he got bronze the one year. And I'm just a big fan of I read the one book about him. I watched the movie, and I think it's just a true statement in everything in life.
I love that, man. That's cool. I'm going to write that down. Cool. Well, Chris, let's say that I'm a buyer or real estate agent in your market. And you got a big market. There are lots of home inspectors in your market. Why should I hire you? Is there something your company does that others don't?
We are a one-stop shop, and I know you hear that a lot from a lot of people, but after talking to a lot of our agents, a lot of times they've got to sub other things out to other inspectors. So we do pretty much anything that they would want. If we can't do it, we'll find somebody else to do it. So we do the termite and the radon testing, which pretty much everybody around here gets those. We do those in-house. It's one less guy they got to call to do the termite, one less guy to call the radon. We do follow-up calls, and I know some of the other big companies or some of the other good one-man shops, they're doing those, but we are super consistent with that. And I've got a marketing person that works with me, and she's fantastic. So 48 to 72 hours after the home inspection, she's making a phone call to the buyer's agent, to the client, and also to the listing agent, just to make sure that everybody's good, they've got what they need, they've seen the report, that they don't have any questions. And that's like a level of consistency that I really like, because a lot of times we'll catch problems, before they become a problem, like we never saw the report, or we don't understand the way this was worded, or can you tell us more about this? And it's very proactive, and I think the agents really like that. So we're very consistent with that.
No, I think that's a great idea, and you find out problems that otherwise you wouldn't have found out. They would have just stopped calling you.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
You're like, oh, man, they haven't used this in a long time, and you don't know why.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I would have that the first few years in business because I never did that. And you know how agents are. They're pretty fickle, and they want things. If you mess up with them once, they stop calling you forever. So it's like, once you get them in the door, I mean, you really got to take care of them. We give the report within 24 hours. It's a computer-generated report, which I think most of the good people in the business, they all have a computer-generated report. I'm not going to argue that our report's better than most. Our reports, we like to keep them under 30 pages if possible. I mean, the shorter the better. We have a summary. We'll give cost estimates when they want to. I don't really love doing that, but some of our agents, they absolutely have to have cost estimates. So, we're moldable a little bit. If we talk to the agents and they say, "Can you put in cost estimates?" We'll say absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we're pretty good on site with the people. We know how to handle them, and we try to give our clients what they want.
I hear you. We get that sometimes, the cost estimate, and I'll tell them, we've got some former contractors that work for us that I can give you an estimate, but you can't go into closing with that number.
Right.
Because, if you ask for that and then you go back, because I always tell them, I had a fender bender and I went and got 3 estimates and they ranged from $800 to $3,200, the same repair.
Uh-huh.
So I said, you're going to get this with contractors too. So,
one of the things that kills me is we did it for one person. It was I did the inspection personally. It was an oil tank that had like a rusted out leg. So the real estate agent asked me, "Oh, can you give me estimates for the report and give me an estimate on how much it would cost to fix that leg on the oil tank?" And I said, "Oh, I don't know. You just need to prop it up with something. I don't know, or weld another leg on there or something." So I gave her an estimate of like $10 to $100 or something like that. I just figured she'd prop it up. Well, she takes it to an oil guy, and the fuel company says, "Well, you can't just replace those legs. You need a brand new oil tank."
Oh.
So she calls me back and starts complaining to me. I said, "Well, what do you want from me? You need to brace it up. If they want to sell you a new oil tank, by all means, buy it." But she was mad, and she doesn't use this anymore because I told her it was only going to be less than $100 to fix the leg on the oil tank.
Oh boy!
But that's what you get.
I know. I got a little, and I know I'm getting off on a tangent again. I got a little bit of blowback yesterday on they were like, "Well, you always hand us off to specialists and stuff like that," and I'm like, "Well, that specialist is going to be the person doing the repair."
Right.
So it's the same sort of thing. Like it's hard for me to estimate what somebody else is going to charge. I know what it should cost, right, but that doesn't mean that that's what they're going to charge.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And you're also not using that fix to feed your family either. So you're like, well, this is how I would do it if it was mine. But these guys are like, well, I can upsell a new furnace.
Right. Exactly.
A little more incentive.
Would you like fries with that? Well, Chris, tell us a little bit. Like, what do you do in your spare time?
Well, I spend a lot of time with my family. Right now, I like to say we're in the dark ages. So, the girls are all just starting to get active and busy, and so there's not a lot of time for ourselves. So I'm running them around, being like a shuttle bus. This morning afterwards, I gotta take them to gymnastics, and my other daughter's got a game tomorrow that's about an hour away, a soccer game. So we're doing a lot of running. But I like to run, like actually really run. I'm a marathoner when I'm healthy. My knee's a little bit sore right now, but
wow.
Over 10 marathons, and I try to get in like one a year. I run with a running club. Like I said, when I'm healthy, I'll run with them a few days a week, and I lift a little bit on the off days. So running and lifting when I can fit it in.
I admire you. I've always wanted to run a marathon. I've run the bridge run down here in Charleston a couple times, which is a 10K. I think it's like 6 miles or something. But
yep.
I want to do a marathon. You know the story, like the first marathon. Or what it's named after, right? Like the Greek.
Yeah. Yep. The Greek guy. Yeah, who just during the battle, right? He had to run back to marathon to let him know the status of the war or whatever. He had 26.2 miles.
Right, and then he died right after that.
Yeah,
so I was like, I'm not sure I want to run a marathon now.
It's not even a race. You can't even treat it as a race. It's more like a quest. It's like an adventure. You can't even like focus on the time so much. It's like a war of attrition.
Yeah, it's like between 4 and 5 hours? Is that what it takes? Or
yeah, I mean, it depends. I mean, if you do, yeah, I mean, most of the people that run through, they're probably running, 4 to 5 hours, something like that. If you're running like a pretty consistent pace, the running club that I do with, I run with, we actually do a water stop for the Philadelphia Marathon. So that's pretty cool watching a marathon from that perspective. And we're actually 2 water stops, so it's 1 water stop, but we hit them at mile 17, I think they come by us, and then mile 24. So a lot of the times it's great because you get to see them at mile 17, and at that point most people are still like, yeah, feeling good, they're running to the music, and then mile 24 on the way back, everybody's like head is down, they're they're shuffling along, it's a completely different body.
That's cool, so cool. Well, Chris, it's shifting gears. That was fun. This is not going to be fun. You know as well as I do that if you do enough inspections, you're going to have an unhappy camper. How do you handle unhappy camper? Do you have a process, and what's that look like?
Yeah, that's been like probably the hardest thing for me to kind of transition to is just, the fact that, if you do more inspections, you're going to have more unhappy campers. It's just all a law of numbers. But we try to, the first thing we do is we try to answer them back immediately. If they email me, I email them right back. If they call us, I call them right back. And as soon as I can, within 24 hours. So, I feel like that a lot of times that nips stuff right in the bud. If you call them back immediately, don't let it hang out there. We have a form that we send them, and that's usually my next response. If I talk to them on the phone, it seems like maybe it's a legit problem, maybe it's not, maybe they think they have an issue and I don't, so I send them the form, just a questionnaire kind of, tells us a little bit more about the problem, the settlement, how it was handled. And then, worst case scenario, or if they're still not appeased, or I still think we might have messed up, I'll do a site visit, and I'll go out there and I'll look at the problem. And I try to take care of that all, within a pretty short period of time. What I was really surprised about sometimes was, sometimes people will leave an email or a voicemail, and you think they're calling to complain, and then you call them back and they're like, oh no, I had a problem, I had a question about this, and they're not trying to, throw you under the bus or say you did anything wrong at all. They're actually just trying to say, they're doing what you're telling them to do, which is if you have any issues afterwards, call me, which is what we do at every home inspection. Well, sometimes the people are actually calling you back to say, oh, can you tell me how to do this? Or do you remember seeing where the shutoff was? Or, so
yeah.
You think they're calling to complain, and they're actually just calling to question you, to give you, to pick your brain.
Yeah, when that phone call starts off, you did an inspection for me 6 months ago. You're like, oh,
yeah.
Here it comes.
Yes. Yep.
And it's funny you said that. Like with us, like you said, you're trying to determine whether they have a legitimate issue. Regardless, they have a legitimate issue in their mind.
Right.
But now, when it comes to you, you're like, well, that was something that was behind the wall, or it was in the report. And this I'm probably going to sound crazy when I say this. I'm almost happier when this is going to sound crazy when it really is a legitimate issue and I have no problem. You know what? We're gonna take care of that. We'll pay for it. The problem comes when it wasn't anything that we could do, and then of course they feel like and then there's the conflict, and then you're like, I would almost rather it be something that's our fault. That in my mind, I have no problem stepping up to the plate on that.
Yeah, I agree. You can just settle it. You can settle it and move on. Yeah,
and all right, it's gonna hurt a little bit, but you know what? We got to do right. But the ones that there was nothing you could have done any different, and of course they want. And those are the ones that just you grit your teeth on.
Yeah.
But anyway, well, Chris, we are going to talk about some high points and low points here in just a minute. But first, let's pause for our sponsors.
Well, I'll admit this probably doesn't have much to do with home inspection, but it will help me pay for this podcast. If you're in need of anything to hang on the wall along the lines of art, go to PrestonSandlin.com. Check it out. You can click on there if you're interested, and it takes you to Fine Art America, some of the stuff I've done. And you can have all kinds of things, phone case covers, all different size art things. So if you're looking for a gift or something like that, you like this podcast, they'll help me pay for this podcast. That would be awesome. And if you can prove to me that you bought something from it and I see you at a conference or something, I'll buy you an adult beverage. Thanks a lot.
All right. Well, we are back here with Chris Early. Chris, while we're down low, we'll stay there for a minute and then we'll come back up. Tell us about a time when you failed. Take us there, and what did you learn from it?
I can't remember the exact situation, but it was definitely my first miss as a home inspector, my first legitimate miss where I should have called something out, and I didn't, and I felt like crap. And, the client called me back, and I went out to look at the job site, And like I said, I can't remember what the exact issue was. It was a long time ago. And I went and I just felt horrible because these people are paying us good money to look at their house and check all the components. And here I said everything was fine except for these issues, but there was another issue that caused them to have to dip in their pockets and fix the problem. And you know, I followed our process then, and I went back and I made it right. But at the time, I felt horrible. You know, I got the phone call and I was like, I pulled up our report and I was thinking, oh man, I don't know if I got this, or, you know, I don't know if this was an issue. And then I went up to the site and it was confirmed. So it was definitely my first miss as a home inspector.
Right. Well, it's going to happen. It's going to happen to the best of inspectors. I don't care. I know there's some guys out there listening. But, you know, it'll happen. It's a numbers game. I mean, I don't know if that's the right. But if you do enough inspections, you're going to miss something. And you know, I tell guys, just expect it, and you know.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you, I never let it happen again. It never happened again, and it's still, you know, I still talk to my guys about it. Like, you know, here's things we got to make sure that we catch. Why? Because we've had an issue with it in the past. So I mean, you can always learn from those things. Yeah,
I got a theory on that, and I tell my guys, you know, you'll never get burned on the same thing twice.
Yes,
because it'll burn in your mind. And I tell them, you know, they call it a seasoned inspector. And I said, you know how they season meat? They beat it with a hammer and rub salt in it. That's the way a home inspector gets seasoned as well.
That's
so, yeah, and so at the end of every meeting, we go around the table with all the guys, and we call it burned and learned. And so my theory is, because you will not get burned on the same thing twice, maybe you hearing that story firsthand from another inspector, they won't get burned on that same thing, and you benefit from from everybody. Thing.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. It's a benefit to working with a group of inspectors, whether you're in your community or whether they're all in your company. You get to pick each other's brains and you get to lessen everybody's liability.
That's right. Well, Chris, let's bring it back up a notch here. On the other end of the spectrum, tell me about, I had this as an I made it moment, but I don't like that because we never feel like we truly make it, I think. But how about I've come a long way moment? Have you had that moment?
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely when you pick up your first top producer. You know, when you first get in business, you're picking up, you know, a couple new agents. You know, you're picking up some mortgage brokers, or maybe you're referring your work. But it was definitely when there was, you know, the top producer that's, you know, they're probably doing a couple deals a month, and then they just started using us, and that was like, oh yes. I mean, first of all, you can see the direct impact to your bottom line in the business. But second of all, it's that, you know, it's the weight that those type of people carry in the real estate world, you know, that hey, I'm doing all this work for, you know, such and such agent, and that carries a lot of weight with a lot of other agents. So I feel like once you hit that top producer and they're giving you work, I mean, your business can just roll and get bigger a lot faster because, you know, if they like you, they're going to tell your friends, you know.
Well, and plus, like you said, the other agents are looking at that top producer and thinking, you know, what I need to be doing what they're doing because it's
right.
Obviously producing results, and if they're using this guy, I need to use that guy.
Right.
Cool.
Yep.
Well, Chris, do you have a favorite book that you would recommend to our listeners? And what is it about the book that appeals to you?
Yeah, it's probably pretty generic, and I feel like most people have read it in the industry. But Rich Dad Poor Dad for me was the one that got me thinking more like an entrepreneur and less like a technician. It was more, you know, got me thinking about real estate in general, real estate investing, you know, building your own business. And honestly, that book was the one that I read. And it was right around the time when you read it, you know that saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Well, I probably would have. It was also the time that I read that book too. I mean, it could have been, you know, Richest Man in Babylon or Think and Grow Rich, but whatever. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was 30 years old, and we just started having kids, and I was thinking about getting out of the business. It was right at that time when I said, well, you know what, I could do this. I could be an entrepreneur, and you know what, I'd probably be better off, and I'd probably like it better. So even though I couldn't really see the forest through the trees, I figured, well, I'll dive in and we'll see how it goes. But yeah. Anything by Robert Kiyosaki, I'm a big fan.
Yeah. I got into Robert Kiyosaki big time. We bought that game, Cash Flow.
Yeah, I got it. I make my kids play it.
Yeah, it's a good game. Yeah, get out of the rat race thing.
Yep.
It's pretty cool. You know, he has a podcast also. He's got a podcast out there that's pretty. I've listened to it a couple of times. It's pretty good.
Really?
I think it's Rich Dad Radio or something like that.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that. I'll have to check out the podcast.
Cool. Well, we talked a little bit about, you know, the changes you'd seen. tell us, and I know you don't have a crystal ball, but Chris, if you could guess, or if you think about the direction we're heading, how do you think home inspections will change in the future?
I think technology is the biggest thing. It's going to be incorporated more and more at a faster rate into our home inspections. I mean, since I've got in the business, I feel like it's, technology has exponentially sped up the rate of what we offer and what we can see. I mean, thermal cameras, that was a big thing for a while. You've got we've both got those drones, so we can fly up over top and see it from a different perspective, or see stuff that we wouldn't have seen otherwise, like on a 3-story roof or something we couldn't get a ladder on top of. So I think that there's going to continue to be more and more products that we as inspectors could buy and see more of a house without going Mike Holmes on it and ripping it down. So, I mean, I think that there's just going to be continue to be more and more like cool tools. If you're into cool toys, I think this is the right business.
Yeah, and it's a tax write-off.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. You put that in quotes, tax write-off. It's kind of like a toy. It starts out as a toy, but it's really a tax write-off.
I hear you. Which drone do you have, Chris? Do you have the Phantom?
I have a DJI. I bought it off Amazon. It was like $1,200. I got the I forget what it was, a 15 megapixel camera with the gimbal on it.
Yeah. So, I know the one. So you have the I think it's Phantom 2 plus Vision. So
yeah.
Yeah.
I've
Love
been going too much lately. It's freezing cold out, but we have that. One of my guys actually has it too. So he flies that too. So yeah, we have the DJI.
What I found too. I haven't flown mine in a while because it's just weather, same sort of thing. I bought one of those Hubsan little toy ones, and every once in a while I'll get out in my driveway and just fly that one to keep my skill. Because I don't know if they erode, but I don't want to wreck my my Phantom because that's very expensive. But if I wreck that little Hubsan, it's like $50. So I need to get out. I need to get out in the driveway and make sure my skill set's still there, still got it.
How is that thing? I've seen you can get how is that thing? The cheaper like a Radio Shack kind of version. Are they still pretty? You flying pretty good?
Yeah, it's they're like $50. They're hard as hell to fly.
Really?
Because you don't have those. You don't have the what you call it, the
screen?
GPS. You don't have the GPS, so it's all over the place. But that's good, I think, because it teaches you to, because when you got the Phantom, you got the GPS, helping you to keep it in position. But this thing's constantly drifting, so you're constantly having to, kind of fight it. And at first, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, but then you start to get a little control. And the thing is, if you get good at that, you'll be great at the Phantom. I mean, because the Phantom's a lot easier to fly. But like I said, I would rather wreck that $50 thing than the $1,300 one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the cost of this stuff keeps going down too. It's not just the actual availability of it, but it's the cost of it too. Like when I got probably a few years ago when thermal cameras started to become a big deal, you could get a good cheap thermal camera for $5,000. Well, now I saw you can buy one online that attaches to your iPhone for $250. I mean, it's not the greatest resolution, but I mean, you can still offer thermal imaging, and you can see what we need to see as home inspectors off a $250 attachment to your iPhone.
Well, and that camera that costs $5,000 is now $2,200 too.
Right. Yep.
So even the stronger ones have come down. They're all, it's like calculators. When calculators first came out, nobody could afford them. Yep. Now they give them away. They're you put your logo on it. They're tchotchkes.
Yep.
But Chris, let's. I know this has happened to you. It's happened to all of us. Have you been thrown under the bus by a contractor? I know I have. How do you handle it? Do you have any ideas how to? I know you can't prevent it, but at least control it.
Yeah, anybody who's been in business for a little while is going to have the client that calls back when they buy the house, they get some contractors in there, start fixing stuff up, and the contractor pulls something aside or opens up the panel or something and says, "Oh, you got a problem here. I can't. When did you buy this house? Did you have it inspected? Oh, you should have found this." I mean, I've heard that. If I had a dime for every time I had that, it's getting less now, but that's very commonplace. We try to really set expectations before the home inspection. We send our inspection agreement has verbiage to kind of spell out, hey, this is what we do see, this is what we can't see. These are the standards. I think that's the biggest thing is the standards we inspect to. We're not code inspectors. We don't bring things up to code We're not trained to do code inspections. That's the biggest thing. And then when we have our curbside conversation with the clients, when the inspection first starts, we give them something similar. Hey, we can't see behind the walls. Just so you know, these are kind of what we inspect to the standards, which we attach to every home inspection. And the standards are, it's habitability standards. They're not. If you had to bring a house up to current code that's 50 years old, you'd probably have to rip the whole thing down.
Right.
I mean, I feel like that's why the profession was created, because you can't go back to the sellers with everything a contractor would find, because it's just completely unreasonable and it's unnecessary. So that's the biggest thing. Our procedure for it is, I first spell that out to the client on the phone when I call them back, and I say, hey, we inspect the home inspection standards. We don't inspect the code. And then if they keep pressing, I don't mind talking to the contractor and explaining it to them. I mean, a lot of times they'll be irate, but most of the time I can talk to the client or to the contractor and tell them, hey, it's not within our standards to be able to call that. We can't call that out. We can't call out that 50-year-old boiler as defective because it still works and it's still safe.
Right. Well, and you said it's gone down a little bit, and I agree with that. I think also there was I don't want to get sued for libel here, but there's some TV shows that created some the TV shows need for drama and to create drama because that's what gets ratings. Created some unrealistic expectations in the home inspection industry. I mean, all I'm going to say is, let's see, if you have a TV show and you had probably most normal inspections, I mean, there's probably not enough drama there to create great ratings and, beat out some of the other TV shows. But if every house that, oh my gosh, blah, 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 that's drama, but it's not reality.
Right, you're right. It's probably a normal situation. They got to soup it up a little bit to get some ratings.
Yeah, but the problem is it creates unrealistic expectations in our industry. And I'm sure you saw it too. But anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that.
Yep.
One thing that bothers me, and this is kind of related to that, contractors who use fear to sell the buyer something they may or may not need. Sometimes the inspector gets caught up in this, and the contractor will falsely say, your inspector should have caught that. It seems that more and more liability is being put on the inspector. I'm just going to flat out say what it is. Mold here is ridiculous. I don't know about it in Philadelphia, but you got all these guys getting into the mold business. And they're basically, there's some legitimate ones out there, but there's some guys that are just mold salesmen, and they are going to say every house has mold. I mean, I'm just going to call it like it is. I mean, I'll probably get some blowback, some hate, but I'm telling the truth here. And I have a problem with that when you start using fear to sell people stuff they don't need. Now, granted, there is some, I'm not saying every situation's that way, but anyway, we have that here. Do you guys have stuff like that in Philadelphia, and what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, mold's not as big of an issue around here, but it is a little bit. And I love that video you posted a little bit while back about the news agency that did the undercover operation with the mold contractors and how the guys came in and they put some eye mascara or eyeshadow or something on the base of the basement walls, and they had the contractors come in. The contractor said, "Yep, that's mold. We got to rip it all out, and here's your quote." And then they said, "Oh, by the way, Mr. Contractor, this is actually mascara. It's eyeshadow." And the guys had no comment. They were running away from the camera. I thought that was so fitting because that's what we see from a lot of different trades, not just mold in the industry. I mean, I think the way to, I guess it'd be hard to say more contractor education because I wouldn't want to be the one standing up in front of these contractors saying, "Hey, listen, I'm going to kind of cut into the work that you're getting because, you can't call everything out as defective. You can't go in and scare the client." And I feel like there's a lot of good contractors out there that it's kind of a gray area for them because it's a little conflict of interest. They go into these houses and they see something that's not wrong, but it could be improved, and they want to make it right. And by the way, if you sell this, you make a little bit more money today. So I think a lot of good contractors will kind of get caught up in that a little bit by saying, well, you don't need a new furnace. I mean, we could fix your old furnace for $2,200 and you have to wait a week for the part, or we could sell you a new one for $5,000 and you could have it installed today. So I mean, I think that I think even good contractors, it's hard not to upsell and sometimes it's completely justified. But yeah, there's definitely guys out there, and I've heard of them that are they'll upsell everything.
Oh yeah.
To the nth degree, and they've got the client right where they want them. A lot of times the clients have a heater that doesn't work. They're getting no heat in the middle of winter. And the guy says, well, I could fix your heater, and I'd have to wait for a part for a week. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Or we can have your new heater installed today. Well, sometimes the contractors or the client's under the gun. So they've got them, where they got to make a move.
Right.
And then a lot of times they sell on fear. They'll sell on, like you said, with mold. Oh, you got mold on the wall there in your bathroom. We got to rip this whole thing out. Your contractor or your home inspector should have caught it. Well, you know what I love is when you come in and you do an air quality sample, you find more mold in the air outside than you do that's on the wall of the bathroom sometimes.
Right.
It's like, you got to put it in perspective too. Is there mold in your house? Yeah, but there's mold everywhere. So it's a lot of just educating people, I feel like. And most of the people you hear that are throwing you under the bus, they're just negative people. That's just the way they roll. They're just I don't know. It's frustrating.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you, and I think education is the key to that. And we're all in business. I mean, I get it when I go to Panera and they're like, "Would you like a cookie with that?" Or what have you. It's all about the upsell, yeah. And providing more value, and that's fine. I get it. Business is part of that. But when somebody uses fear to sell somebody something they may not need, now if they need it, that's fine. But
who determines that need? Who draws that line?
Right. When they use fear, that's where I draw. That to me is a below the belt tactic. But
yep.
Anyway, well, let's move on. I want to ask your opinion on something. Sorry, these are all negative. We'll get back to the positive here in a second.
That's good. It's educational.
I like the good, the bad, the ugly. I also want to ask your opinion on something. I'm bothered by what I see sometimes on home inspector forums. There's some great folks on there, but there's also some egos that get going on that. And ideally we would like it to be where we all help each other and make the profession look good. Do you have any ideas how we could keep it positive and professional?
Honestly, I feel like those people are they're negative people to begin with. I don't feel like that they last long in the profession, or what's the phrase? Timid salespeople have skinny kids. I think that negative home inspectors have skinny kids.
That's good.
So I don't think that those guys usually last very long in the industry, and yeah, I don't know. I could tell you that I usually don't get on the forums anymore for that reason. It's a lot of negativism, and a lot of times I can just call somebody else up that I know and just get the answer I need. So I don't really go on those forums very often, but I don't think most of those people last very long.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Well, now, Chris, remember this is a G-rated show here. With that in mind, what's the craziest or wildest or weirdest thing you've ever found on a home inspection?
Yeah, other than the un-G-rated stuff I've found in home inspection, stuff in the attic, like pests in the attic. I've been up in the attic before and seen, went upstairs. I heard some scratching when I was downstairs on like the second floor. Heard some scratching up above my head. And I'm thinking, all right, well maybe there's a bird that flew in or a mouse or something like that. And then you go up in the attic, and the one attic I went into, there was 3 squirrels stopped and looked at me when I shone my flashlight right on them. I saw their little eyes.
Oh, boy.
And what was worse, they didn't even move. I mean, they just looked at me, and then they started, baring their teeth, and I'm thinking, oh, all right. I thought I was going to scare them away, and they were going to run away, but these guys are like a rabbit or something. So, the squirrels, I mean, that's pretty timid. I haven't found any snakes like you, thankfully. I did do one crawl space one time. It was a finished crawl space, well lit, concrete slab down there. They had, a heat pump. It was a geothermal system, really cool system. And right by the geothermal system, right by the heat pump down there, I saw a snake skin. This is as close as I've got to it before, and it was a small little snake skin. And then I started working my way back a little further in the crawl space, and I found another snake skin. It had just it lost its skin. And then really far in back the crawl space, I found a humongous snake skin.
Oh,
and
wow.
the whole time I'm thinking oh my gosh, this thing's probably over my head, just waiting for me to crawl underneath, and it's going to drop down on me and strangle me or something. So
wow.
I never found that snake, thankfully, but it was obviously living down there at one point.
We had a house, we do termite treatments as well. We had a house that we inspected and also did a termite treatment on it. So we, we put it on bond. So I have to go out and crawl under this house every year. And same thing, Chris. You open the door. I mean, at any given time, there's 5 snake skins inside.
Oh.
I mean, as soon as you open the door, and this is the craziest thing. Even when you treat it for termites, you have to drill the front porch.
Yep.
I would drill the front porch. I pulled the drill out. There's a snake skin wrapped around my drill bit.
Oh, wow. From underneath the slab.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, my God, this house is like snakes on a plane or something. And I'll tell you something. I don't anymore, but the first couple of years, I would take my dog with me. And we would crawl under that house together.
Yeah, that gives me the heebie-jeebies, man. Yeah, I that's probably the weirdest stuff I've seen. It's just like animals and stuff. But snakes, man. Oh, I'm like Indiana Jones, man. You know. Oh, I hate snakes, Chuck.
Oh, I hate them. That is about that's the one thing I can't stand. I know they're all God's creatures, but they're so slimy. It's those somebody told me the other day, legless lizards.
Yeah. I found some other weird stuff in there, but it's usually related to, when you pop the access to the attic, you'll find like a stack of magazines of something, that other people obviously didn't see, or, up high in a closet shelf, you've seen some stuff that the kids weren't supposed to see,
Oh yeah, definitely. Or you've seen some stuff the kids don't want the parents to see.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. I found bags of certain substances, of certain uncontrolled substances,
or bottles in the crawl space, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, Chris, we're winding down. I appreciate you, spending your Saturday morning with us. Do you have like an app or something on the computer or a resource you'd be willing to share with everyone?
There's I think it's called buildingcenter.org. Is an app that we use for finding the dates on certain equipment. So a lot of times, sometimes when the manufacturers are good about it, they say date manufactured, and it says it right there. Most of the other times it's actually written in the serial number. It's usually like the third and the fourth digit, or like the last couple digits of the serial number. You can get the date. Well, sometimes you can't. Like York, I think York, heating and air conditioning units, we don't see the dates on. It's kind of hard to see. So buildingcenter.org, I think it is.
Okay.
It's an app that all our guys have on their phone, so we can bring it up at the inspection, and we can give them the date right there. We don't have to go back and look at a manual or whatever. That's one that we use. We use the pitch level. There's an app for that.
Yeah.
We have that, so on certain roofs, we'll see in their low slope, and they have shingles on them, and we're not sure if it's, quite within the range of when it shouldn't be a shingle roof, so we'll put our pitch gauge on there and see what the pitch is. And if it's, if it's not steep enough, we tell them to monitor it, or let them know that it might not be enough, and they might want to change it like a rolled rubber composition. So we use the pitch gauge too. We've got the app for our home inspection software. Obviously, that's how we do all our home inspections. And I think we have one for Whale McLean, which is a boiler system that we see frequently around here up in the Northeast. And it's the same thing. It gives you the date on that, because the other program we won't give that. So. Cool.
Well, we don't see too many boilers down here, but I guess the trade-off is we do see snakes.
Yeah, trade-off for everything, man.
It is. Well, Chris, tell us about the best part of your job and why, and what's the worst part of your job and why?
It's the same answer. It's the people. I'm a people person. I really like getting out. I like the frequency in which we meet people. If you're if you're a full-time home inspector, you're meeting at least 2 new clients every day. For better or for worse, they're cool personalities. I always like to talk with the people while I'm on site about stuff other than the home inspection. While I'm taking off the cover of the electrical panel, or I'm doing something that's a little more labor intensive. I like to talk to them, find out where they're from, what brought them to the area, what they do, and you meet a lot of interesting people in the business just with the quantity of people that we see coming in and out of the area. It's really cool. You can kind of get an idea about like industry trends for the Philadelphia area. If I'm seeing a lot of pharmaceutical people moving in, there's a pretty good chance that there's a new company down here, or then the existing company's getting bigger, or you just see a wide range of people. Different ethnicities, different education backgrounds. You can see what kind of areas are hot. Which ones you're doing more inspections in. And it's just you really get a good feel for the real estate market down here by the people. And then the flip side is obviously the people. Sometimes we'll have certain times of the year when we get more complaint calls, usually around Christmas or afterwards.
Ain't that the truth?
Time. And you get a feel for, like sometimes we'll get a slew of like first-time home buyer calls, and it's usually something we need to figure out what we need to fix or how we need to explain things a little better. These people are calling back and they're not sure or why we missed something. I guess we got to do a little bit more education with our first-time home buyers. So sometimes I'll feel like, man, there's a rash of these first-time home buyers are really entitled. They just feel like everything's owed to them, and now that they own a house, none of it's their responsibility. So sometimes I can it's like just seeing these people come through and kind of getting a feel for the type of buyers that are out there too.
No, I'm totally with you, and I think you're right about the around Christmas time. One of my guys pointed that out, and I didn't really notice it. But then once he pointed it out, it's always around Christmas. I don't know why.
Everybody's short on cash to fix the house.
Exactly. Here's a way we could get some money, and you're right too about when you get first-time home buyers. I mean, they're really excited. It's great for them. But, they were used to calling the maintenance guy at the apartment complex. They called Schneider.
Right.
And he came and fixed stuff. And I'm like, you guys do realize you own this now, that you own it. I mean, there's tax breaks and you're going to grow in equity, but you got to fix stuff. You can't, there's going to be.
You can't call somebody else. It's your job now, your responsibility. You bought it.
That's right. And the home inspector is not the maintenance guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I like the agents, all our referral partners, they're all really good people. I mean, it's pretty nice after you've been in business for a little while, and there's jerks in the business, and you can at some point in your business decide, hey, you know what, I don't need to work for this guy, or if I do, I'm going to charge him an extra $150 per home inspection he does with us because I got to deal with his negativism. But most of the people that we deal with are really good people. We all know them on a first name basis. They call us up with any issues or questions, and it's very comfortable when we talk with them about our industry or how to improve their business or them giving us constructive criticism. It's very open, and it's not negative at all. So I feel like most of the professionals, and I put that term in quotes, that we deal with are really good people.
Yeah, same here. We have a lot of professionals, and you mentioned a few of those negative ninnies or what do they call them? Nannies, negative nannies.
Yeah, negative Nancy's or whatever.
Yeah, or whatever. Are the ones that are really a pill to deal with. Early on it would bother me, because you just can't please some of them. I mean, it's just no matter what you do. And they leave you, but you know what I found out over time? They wind up coming back around to you because they go through everybody else.
Yep.
And it's funny because my wife will call me, guess who just called us to do an inspection? You're kidding me.
Yeah.
Because and you see your mind, they blew up with you, then they went through every other inspection and come back around. So.
Yeah, I love to see that. And sometimes it's like the price shoppers too, like the real estate agents who are arguing that your price is too high. And I know we had this one recently where the client didn't go with us. The realtor always puts her name out there, and we usually do a lot of work for this agent. And the clients, they can go with whoever they want. And the clients went, they're buying a $500,000 house. They went with another home inspector that was $25 cheaper. Well, the agent
on a $500,000 house.
That kills me when that happens, but. So they went with this other guy, and the agent actually called us back a couple days later and said, hey, I need you guys to come out and do this inspection because this home inspector's got these people scared to death. And I'm just really, there's a price to be paid for that,
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Well, Chris, we're winding down here. Just, I think, 2 questions left. If you had to move to a brand new town equal to the size of Philadelphia, and you had to start all over. Everything was taken care of. Room and board. You still have the same skill set, still have the same tools, but you have $5,000. Basically, that's your marketing budget. You don't know anybody. What are you going to do that first week?
Yeah, it's got to be the candy houses or the candy bowls. I mean, you got to get known in the real estate society. I mean, I would join up the local real estate board. I would get active in that. I wouldn't spend any of my money on all that the other direct to the public type stuff like Yellow Pages or any direct advertising to the public, any paper ads. I would just go right to where the real estate professionals are because that's the low hanging fruit for sure. I mean, you get involved with the association, you start putting some candy bowls or candy houses in the real estate offices, and you got to service them every week or every week and a half because they once they see you on a regular basis, even if you're not from the area, they'll be like, oh, there's Chris, he's coming in for our candy again. What's up, Chris? And then you start having some conversations with them, some very open dialogue, and then at some point they start knowing you, liking you, trusting you enough to trust you with their clients who they might have shown 10 or 20 houses, and now they finally have the one, and the real estate agent thinks it's a good fit for them too. They might entrust you with their clients, but I mean, I would put 100% of that $5,000 in candy bowls and candy houses and servicing them.
Cool. Well, Chris, is there anything that I didn't ask you that I should have asked?
No. Well, let's see. What are we working on right now? We're looking at increasing some of our services. As far as what we offer the client. We do, like I said, we try to do a little bit of everything. Stucco testing is really big around here right now.
Okay.
We're doing A lot of these houses that the builders have built, if they were built 10, 20 years ago, they're just starting to have some problems now as far as like mold behind the walls and stucco deteriorating. So we're really diversifying now as far as what we're getting into. We're offering the intrusive stucco testing, and we're really ramping up on that. We're starting to get a lot of business from that. And some of the townships around us are requiring a sewer cert, so we're actually going to be buying a sewer camera. I don't know if you do a lot of that down your way, but we're going to be buying a camera, and we're going to be offering that as another service for, when people call in and say, they want to schedule a home inspection. Because a lot of that's one thing, we have to disclaim. The sewer line from the house to the street, we can't see it. It's underground.
Right.
We run water. We run water for a good amount of time, but if it doesn't back up when we're there, we have no reason to suspect anything's wrong with that sewer line.
No, that's great stuff. I mean, it's all about, providing more value for the client. And we've thought about doing that. I haven't pulled the trigger on that yet, but I go to that guy's booth every time at the shows, and I'm like, man, I'm close, like.
Yeah, which one is that? Tool Experts? Which one?
Man, I cannot think of the guy's name. I've talked to him several times. He sells the sewer can. I mean, I know there's a couple of them, but
yeah. I did a home inspection yesterday, and the guy, it was like a Zoom Drain, I think, was the name of the company. They pulled up, and I asked my client, who's a real estate agent. I was inspecting his house, and I said, how much you pay for the sewer line inspection? He was like $450 plus whatever he's got to clean out or whatever. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh. And this is a guy who's clearly got a conflict of interest where it's in his incentive to upsell. So, that's the idea of having an inspector out is we've got no skin in the game. We can just kind of call it how it is. So I'm thinking, man, $450, man, we could do a few of them and have the camera paid for.
Yeah, and you're not just specifically trying to get work either, so you're more unbiased.
It's another level of protection for the consumer.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, you've been more than generous with your time, and I know you got to get the girls to soccer practice, and I know all the listeners appreciate it. If there's a couple of things, we want to get you some likes on your Facebook page. You have a Facebook business page?
We do. It's under facebook.com/inspectitfirst, SEPA, as in Southeast Pennsylvania. Inspect It First with the one ST.
Inspect It First. So, guys, if all the listeners out there, if you guys got some value from Chris, and come on, you did. Well, I did. Let's go give him some likes on his Facebook page. That'll help him out a little bit. And is there any way, would you mind if somebody wanted to follow up with you on anything, any way they could get in touch with you?
Yeah, always. Yeah, on Facebook, or they can shoot me an email through the Facebook page that we have or whatever. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and definitely, I mean, I love these podcasts you do, Preston. These things are great. I think if this is the only sort of marketing education that home inspectors get, that's a darn good start, because there's so many tips you get on here, and it's all free. I mean, it's super easy to download these podcasts. I do. I just download them on my MP3 player. I can listen to them in my truck or while I'm working out or whatever. And these are great. I love that you do these.
Oh, well, thanks. I appreciate it. Well, I love listening to podcasts, and I kept saying there's none for home inspectors. And also, it's kind of a lonely profession. I mean, I like riding around in my truck, but and a lot of times you got friends in town, but they're your competition. So, I was like, I wish there was a podcast for us. So, well, there's not. There needs to be.
Yep.
Here we go.
Yeah, well, it's fantastic. Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the kind words, and I'm going to let you go and get those girls to soccer practice.
You're the man. Thanks a lot.
All right.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris. Have a good day.
All right, see you.
See you.
Thanks for checking out the Successful Home Inspector podcast. You can find show links at thesuccessfulhomeinspector.com. Check out the website for special offers, information, and other resources. Thanks again for listening to the Successful Home Inspector podcast. And remember to check back for new episodes. The Successful Home Inspector podcast is brought to you by Preston Sandlin and Home Inspection Carolina.